From the spreads to the lines, who's up, who's down. We're crunching the numbers, calling the plays, talking all sports in a big time way. Yeah, yeah. Spreadsheet Sports.
Welcome to Spreadsheet Sports. It is March the 1st, and we got ourselves a good show. Man, I look forward to tonight or today's show. It's the middle of the night. I've been doing some research for you guys and for myself. Definitely going to be a good show today. 132 games. 132 games, and it's officially March 1st, so we are definitely and officially in tournament territory. But let's do some housekeeping and show some gratitude. Thank you all for those that are returning to the channel. Thank you guys for comment, sharing, and subscribing. I greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate you. The channel is growing. People are communicating with me. Those that are in the covers community, they are also showing some love too. So for everybody, glad you're here. And I'm trying to continuously work towards giving you a good product. So, for today's show, I have 8 games for you guys, and I think you're going to definitely find some value, whether it's entertainment value or it is, in fact, those that are in the betting world. And, you know, I just, this is fun for me, and it's also therapy for me, and I literally just really enjoy doing this for you guys and for myself. So, we're going to pull the games apart. I will give you guys a disclaimer. I did have a chance to do some research and just kind of enhance the data that we have access to. And one of the things that I did for research was Lindy Sports. I am not getting a plug for that. I'm not getting paid for that, but it was a very, very good read. Every page, every word, and I went through it twice. I extracted some data from that and incorporated it into what I already use. And it was pretty eye-opening. Lindy Sports, they do a great job with prospecting. Again, I'm not getting paid for that. I'm just calling it like it is. And what I did notice is that they are more so of an almanac of NCAA identity of teams, and through their very close to accurate perception of teams, they were like really close for a lot. Like, I mean, 65, 67% of the teams that they call to be front runners or close to front runners. And even when you look at like the ranking that Lindy's was providing for a team at the onset of the season is so very close to where they are performing right now, like either winning record or activity. So those two things sold me. I was like, wow. So as we look at the data today, just always remember when you look at the section that says conference ranking, that consists of the enhanced data of Lindy amending the current ranking for conferences individually. But just want to put a disclaimer out there. And let's dive in the show. Let's have some fun. I got some dogs for us. I got some regular games. And it should be a pretty fun day. Pretty fun day. So with these games today, I mean, obviously I always break it down like I usually do. We got the entertainment value and money line option, and obviously we know that the money line contributes to a possible uh, really great entertainment value, mainly because these teams are, in fact, um, they are matched up with a team that either they can definitely win or it's a really good probability they can win. And the money line and how the books see the game to have an outcome will determine sometimes the performance of these particular entities. But for example, these games are the ones that I think will have some entertainment value. They'll be competitive or competitive enough. And at the same time, they also have some money line value. If you're into that, again, this is not a betting show, but if you are into that, um, I think you'll be happy with these particular games. So starting at the top, we got Youngstown State and we have Furman. I'm going to talk about those two games a little bit more in depth later on in the show, mainly because these are two of my dogs. Two of the other dogs are in the entertainment value and spread overview. But as it stands right now, Youngstown State and Furman, I think they're going to be highly competitive and be some dogs. We'll get into the details of that much later. The teams that are not technically a dog, I would say, are Tennessee State, Winthrop, and Nicholls State. Tennessee Tech coming out of Ohio Valley Conference. They have a split record, 15-15. It's a 4 o'clock game. They are at home, but I like them mainly because they definitely take care of business with most of the categories. In regards to rebounds, assists, points, defensive points allowed, rebounds, all of the above, right? They do good for most of those, not all of those. So they're not highly dominant, but they're dominant enough. They do come in and have a better ranking than their opponent in the conference. They don't have any injuries. I like them to score 70 points or more. Um, Again, anybody that's on this list, I see as somebody that could potentially not only cover the spread, but also could win the game. So with that being said, that's why another reason I think they have the competitive advantage to give us a really good entertainment value. Winthrop is another game that's the same. They're coming into this game with a 20-10 record. They play at 4. They're at home. They also have a good enough domination of the categories. Big South Conference. The only thing that I really don't like about them is that even though they are ranked number 4 in the conference, their competitor is better than them, which means that they could possibly lose this game. This could be one of the possible upsets, but it's like so low on the percentage of like possible upsets that I wouldn't entertain it. But we'll see what happens with this particular game. I think Winthrop wins the game. Um, for other reasons, but we'll dive into that a little bit later. I definitely think that they score about 80 plus points to the game. I mean, even if you want to play it safe, I think that they'll probably score 75, and even at 75, I think they'll win the game also. The spread is -3.5. It's not that big of a spread, and if they're going to win, I think they're going to win by more than 3.5, mainly because this is not a nail biter per se. Even the books don't think it's a nail biter. That's why they're doing a money line of -176. The spread, -110. If I'm in the betting world, again, it's not a betting show. I'm not telling you what to do, but if you did go that route, uh, -110, I would take that. Yeah, I would take that. Especially with the money line being, so high price. Same thing with Tennessee Tech. With a 218, -218 for a spread a money line for Tennessee Tech. I wouldn't take that unless I'm gonna pair it with something, and they got to be points or they got to be over and under on total points. If you're in certain states, maybe you get to do a prop bet with it. but I just don't like it for -218. I still don't like -176 for Winthrop, but I mean, what can you do? I mean, if anything, I would just take the spread bet because it's -110 if I'm in the betting world. Last game on this list for entertainment value and money line is going to be Nickel State. With Nickel State, we're walking into a game that is 18-11. Okay. Um, it's a 6 o'clock game. They're on the road. They dominate most of the categories. Southland Conference, number 3 in the conference, and they have a better ranking than their opponent. They have no injuries. It's a hard game to just be like, I don't know. This is not a I don't know game. Um, I think Nickel State wins this game. I really do. All lines, all everything is lined up for them. But if I were to bet on this game, if I'm into that money line -110, I don't even think I touch the spread because I think you got to either buy the spread up or buy it down. The .05 right now is not a real spread. That's just like kind of where it is right now because I pulled the spreads in the middle of the night, but probably like midday-ish as you guys are looking at this particular session, the spread may have changed for the Nickel State. I don't think that they would go any higher than maybe 2.5 on the spread. I can't see them doing more than 2.5 because they think it's going to be such a close game. But we'll see. But that's my overview of the entertainment value and the money line games that I think we're going to look at tomorrow. Should be pretty interesting. But like I said, we'll dive a little bit more deeply into Youngstown State and Furman a little bit later on in this show. These two games of the money line and spread options, UNC Asheville versus Winthrop. As always, let's start from the beginning. Let's pull it all the way apart, right? So when we pull it all the way apart, let's start at how do they win at home and on the road. UNC Asheville only wins 47% of their games on the road. Winthrop wins 91% of their games at home. How have they been both doing in the last 3 games? Well, UNC Asheville has only won 1 of their 3, whereas Winthrop has won 2 of their 3. And then on top of that, if you want to really figure out identity part before we go into probabilities, Winthrop has a 71% of their upperclassmen versus 50. What is that? Yeah, 50%. 50% of UNC Asheville. That's not good. I mean, it's not bad either, if that makes any sense, but it's not good either. It's not great. Well, let's put it that way. It's not great, but it's not bad, if that makes any sense. Because here's the thing. I think the seniors at Winthrop really pulled them through. Even though they don't have all the categories locked down, I think that UNC Asheville's defense is going to give Winthrop some challenges, right? Winthrop has seen teams like UNC Asheville before, but I think the defense for UNC Asheville is definitely going to cause a slight problem. Now, again, because I blended Lindy's with my data, that's why you see the conference ranking at 4-4 because they're kind of almost an identical team, and they have a couple things here and there. I think this game is going to come down to coaching, to be honest. Even if we went with the math, Winthrop wins from a scientific perspective, but I like Winthrop for this game. I like them for the spread, and I like them for the money line. I don't think that they win by 1. This is not a game that comes down to a buzzer beater. If Winthrop wins, if you think Winthrop wins and that's your team or that's your horse, I think it's a good way to go. The over-under for total points, right there at 164. Too close for my blood. I can't make an argument for that. Nickel State and Stephen F. Austin. With this particular game, um, got to go with Nickel State just because they check off more boxes than Stephen F. Austin. Okay, just to be honest, just to be very honest, brutally honest. When you look at this game, you have Nickel State coming in with winning 50% of their games on the road. And then you have Nickel State winning all of the last three games. And then you got Nickel State also 92% of their roster are seniors and juniors. I don't know what gets better than that against an opponent that only wins 40 plus percent at home. 71% of their roster are seniors and are seniors and juniors. That's not bad, but obviously the cohesiveness is not there because you've only won one of the last three games. So the question is, if you want to dig deep on that game, find out who they lost to out of those three games. And then I want you to size those two people they lost to up against Nickel State. And then size up the one game that they did win against Nickel State. And I think you have your answer. I'm not going that deep. I've seen enough. I've seen enough. Nickel State wins this game. Um, Nickel State wins this game, and I think they cover the spread. And even if the spread is 2.5, I still think they cover the spread at negative 2.5 or minus 2.5. As my mentor was telling me, in this world it's minus, not negative. So I'll remember that. So yeah, minus 2.5. I like for this game. Um, Injuries aren't a problem with either game. That's why they didn't really talk about that. I mean, both teams have some pretty good scores, like Jordan Marsh for Asheville and Kelton Telford for Winthrop. Both of them are getting 16 and 19 points, which is almost a quarter, give or take, of the contribution. For Rob Brown and for Kyle Heyman, both of them again are in the close to quarterish contribution, and probably give or take how the game unfolds. Maybe they do a contribution of 25% a quarter, but with no injuries, it's really nothing really to worry about. Which makes this game even much more competitive. But I think we'll really, really, really get some good entertainment value out of these games. In addition to obviously those that are trying to monetize this game for the spread or the money line, I think you have a really good play here. Um, if you think that the money line is too rich for your blood, take the spread. I think you can't go wrong with either one. I could be wrong as a disclaimer. But just looking at the numbers and just overviewing, the capability and identity of each team, I think Winthrop and Nickel State are your two teams. Those are your two horses. Moving into the spreads. Spread bets that I like, and here's why I like spread bets. With spread bets, this is where we talk about who can dominate. See, the thing about the money line and entertainment value, the money line drives the entertainment value and the intensity of the game. Spreads seem to be about identifying a dominator. And spreads also seem to be about identifying a dog that could make things go the way that you didn't think they would go. Just an observation. Just an observation. And with that observation, I mean, this is what I'm looking at for today, because it is around 4:16 a.m. This will be posted here pretty soon for you guys to enjoy and use to your advantage. But I like Clemson, I like Auburn, and I like BYU. And I'm going to tell you why I like BYU when we dive into that a little bit later. However, Clemson and Auburn, they're coming in, they're on the road, but they got, not only do they have a winning record, but Clemson's 23-5. Auburn's 26-2. Not only is Auburn 26-2, but they also have the best winning percent per capita ratio. I don't know if you understand what that means. You can't look at these teams and be like, oh, like for example with Duke. Oh, Duke is winning all their games. Or they got, yeah, okay. But in a ratio of how many games played versus how many that they won, Duke is not in the same category as Auburn. They're in the same conversation, but Duke is not Auburn when it comes to winning ratio per capita of their schedule. I like Auburn in this game. 26-2 is pretty impressive. And I mean, even when you look at like Clemson and Auburn, like you see how you got 23-5, 26-2. Like Clemson has played 28 games. So has Auburn, right? So when you're doing apples to apples, if it is 28 games we're comparing versus a 28 game um, season so far versus a team that has played 36 games or 34 games, you got to call balls and strikes. And in this world, which is why I love this, you don't get the liberty or the liberty or the luxury of losing. Because here's the thing: if you're in this for entertainment value and you chose the wrong game, you're gonna feel like crap because you're gonna feel like you wasted your time watching a game that just had no entertainment value. If you're in the betting world and you made the wrong decision, you're gonna feel like crap after that game or several games are over if you got a parlay. And you're gonna feel horrible. So, proper evaluation is everything. It's everything. So I'm always gonna call balls and strikes on this channel. You know, the beautiful thing is I don't really have an NCAA team. And that probably makes me just that little bit more effective because I'm looking at the games from a perspective of literally who do you think is going to win, who's going to lose, or even if they lose, how much can they lose by? Are they competitive? Are they not? All of those variables are quantitative data that allows me to help make the best decision possible about the outcome of a game. I mean, even when you talk about the two dogs, when it comes to the spreads, Northern Arizona and San Francisco, I think are going to be some really good spread options. And I also think they're going to be dogs. We'll talk about those games a little bit later and dissect them. I told you BYU is another one that's near and dear to my heart. BYU won me a game about, I don't know, 2 weeks ago. It was an upset game. I'm sold on BYU. I'm sold. Like, the performance they put on for that game, they stayed in. And I remember that I only bet for BYU to cover the spread, but BYU not only covered the spread, they won the game. Oh, that was crazy. Um, that was crazy. But I'm gonna try not to allow my emotions with this BYU game overtake me. But I'm pretty impressed by these young men. 20-8. They're definitely winning. They're outdoing their opponent by all categories. This is the Big 12 competitive conference. They're number 9 in the conference, but they're pretty competitive. I'm not sure if, that's a good or a bad thing that they're number 9-ish. Remember, I'm merging that with Lindy's and the activity and the win rate to determine the conference rankings. But even at a number 9 slot for BYU, I still think that they're probably underrated. I think BYU actually might be a number 5 team. That's debatable. But you can tune into my conference breakdowns where I will be going through each conference. Well, not each conference. I'm going to be talking about like the games for the CIAA and those conferences isolated, and we'll rank all of those. I'm also going to be talking about those that'll be in the March Madness competition. We'll rank all of those conferences, and those that are in the non-invited tournament, we'll rank all of those. So, 3 different shows that'll be coming out where I will really be dissecting those and just talking about some other factors that I observed that maybe others observed as well. But it should be a really, really fun show. But getting back to this list, this is who I think will provide spread coverage for a variety of different reasons. But let's dive into a couple of them and peel back the layers and see why I think that they will cover the spread. Let's dive into this Clemson and Virginia game. This is at 12 o'clock. Okay. Let's start from the basics. Strip it all the way down to the brake pads, right? Clemson, how do you win on the road? 75%. Clemson, out of the last 3 games, how many have you won or lost? Well, we won all of them. Clemson, what's your roster look like? 73% of my roster are seniors and juniors. Wow. So you have the leadership, the cohesiveness, and the win record, and and a better record at 23-5 coming in this game over Virginia? Yes, absolutely. So, with that being said, do you understand why I'm just like, what's the purpose of talking about Virginia? I mean, they win 60% of their games at home. Okay. But you're dealing with freshmen. You're dealing with freshmen. And then on top of that, you only won 1 out of 3 games in the last 3 games. I'm not choosing Virginia to do anything. They ain't covering the spread and they ain't winning the game, in my opinion. And on top of that, Clemson is on a really nice um, progression right now. They're playing better than they got a nice little momentum to them. The tempo is there with them. They're trending in a very positive way. Even the math says that they're going to do well. Injuries, I don't really think are going to be a problem. I mean, they got injuries, but they have less injuries than Virginia, which is a plus. Some of those are game time decisions. But even if you break it down and look at the injuries, you got like what's this, Mr. Christian Reeves and Mr. Christian Bias and Ace Buckner and Mr. Anthony Robinson. The only person that's on here that makes a contribution is Mr. Christopher Reeves with Clemson. And of those almost 2 points, I don't think it's a problem with Mr. Reeves being out because their number one scorer, Mr. Chase Hunter, is giving them 17 points, which is about a quarter or better of their overall points that they normally get on the average. Okay, so if Chase Hunter is playing, then they should have a pretty good game, right? Especially I mean, maybe Virginia defense can slow Hunter down, but even if they isolate him, they're going to move the ball around a lot. And Chase doesn't do a whole lot of turnovers, so you got to take that all into consideration. Um, West Virginia, BYU. I'm not saying BYU because They came through for me in the clutch. I'm not saying BYU for that reason. Let's just look at the data. Spreadsheet sports, right? We only look at the information. We look at the data in a very unbiased way. So when you look at the data, BYU, how do they win at home? 87%. Out of the last 3 games, how many have they won? All of them. What's their roster like? 71% are seniors and juniors. How are they doing with the categories? All of them except defensive points allowed. But is West Virginia defense that good, even though it's such a huge gap between the two of them? Is West Virginia defense that good that they can slow them down, almost stop BYU? I don't think so. After I saw the dog in them a couple of games ago, no, you can't stop them. They are on a tear right now. Even the math says that they win. Even the math says they win. The scientific data, right, has them scoring 76 points at least, and West Virginia at least scoring 65. Game is over. Cool. But even though game is over, I mean, I'm only not choosing the money line because they don't pay that much. Negative 410. Who's gonna take that? Nobody. That's a joke. The best thing you can do is probably take like the money line and maybe team points. And if you take team points, I would take maybe under 70 for team points for West Virginia. Those are probably good bets. Again, it's not a betting show. I'm not telling you what to bet. Maybe because mainly the injuries for this particular game aren't that significant, and their lead scorers, Mr. Javon Small and Richie Saunders, they do pretty good. They do pretty good as forward in the guard. They make a decent contribution, well over 25% of quarter the points. They'll move the ball around. Everybody else will score. They keep everybody involved. Good coaching would probably be a plus, but I think BYU doesn't need good coaching to win this game. They just need the same coaching that they already been getting. Excuse me, guys, but should be pretty good too. Pretty good 2 games. We'll see how it unfolds. So y'all know what time it is in the show. This is the part where we talk about the dogs. The dogs in the fight. The dogs in the fight. I told you that we would get to this and we would really break these games down. But when we talk about the dogs in the fight, I mean, I teased them a little bit when we talked about the entertainment value and we talked about the money line. And I teased them a little bit when we talked about the spread, right? And entertainment value, right? These are the 4 dogs that I'm thinking we may see tomorrow. And again, the key word is may. Youngstown State, Furman, Northern Arizona, and San Francisco. Excuse me. We're going to talk about all 4 of these games. If you were looking for the woulda, coulda, shoulda, these might be those 4 games. I think that 2 of them are being overlooked and 2 of them are like kind of staring us in our face. We're going to take a deep dive into these particular 4 games and really see what they could potentially be. As I've always told you guys, in the world of sports betting, everybody is right and everybody's wrong. There's a 100% chance that anything I talk about on this show could be absolutely wrong. And then there's a potential that it also can be right. So this is why I tell you, get in the comments, tell me what you're thinking, tell me where I'm wrong, tell me where there may be a trapdoor that I don't see. I mean, we were going to really explore the trapdoors with these particular games because I view them as more risky than the selections that we have made for spreads or for money lines. This is where you get down to nuts and bolts of like, do you think they can win? Like, What's the identity of the team? Like their true identity? Are they some dogs? How are things working out for them? How are they doing on the road? How are they doing at home? Where are they at in comparison of the categories? Are they dealing with some injuries? Like, where's the trap door if it's like stares you in the face? But I think the Youngstown State and the Furman game are like the first two where they're staring me in my face. Northern Arizona and San Francisco, we're going to talk about a little bit later, but let's dive into Youngstown State and Furman and really look at this game because I'm trying to figure out what am I missing. But let's dive into it. Youngstown State, as always, let's start from the beginning, right? Dogs. Like spreadsheet sports, why do you think this is a dog? Here's why. Because Youngstown State is already dominating most of the categories like rebounds, assists, field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, all of it. They're doing a better job. That's the science. This is the law of averages, right? Dig a little deeper. How do they do when they're on the road on it when they're home? Here's where it gets tricky. Youngstown State wins 63% of their games on the road. And they're facing a Northern Kentucky that wins 57% of their games at home. So one would say, okay, deductive reasoning, Youngstown does better on the road than Northern Kentucky does at home. Okay, fair enough. How about in the last three games? Youngstown State has won 2 out of 3, whereas Northern Kentucky has won all 3. And again, I'm going to put the same out there. If there's some data and I'm incorrect because of some data that's out there, I did not do that nefariously. I will own up to my mistake, and I need to do a better job with accessing and verifying the data to make sure it's complete. But if in fact this data is actually accurate, this is what we're looking at. How are things with the roster? Like, is there any cohesiveness? Are they working on cohesiveness? I mean, one could argue that both are almost the same because Youngstown has 58% that are upperclassmen and Northern Kentucky has 64% that are upperclassmen. We're not talking about one or two upperclassmen to sway that percentage. So I won't really lose my mind about the percentage and be like, oh, they got more seniors. No, they don't. I mean, maybe one or two or maybe one or two juniors, but that's it. The math has Youngstown State winning the game. Okay. But Northern Kentucky, based off of the math as well, will score more points. This is where it gets tricky because math doesn't lie. You can argue with anything and everything, but you can't argue with math. Again, I both have them at a 5 ranking for conference because of the merge with Lindy's and my data, but I like Youngstown State. I like Youngstown State. I like Youngstown State. And even if you do anything, just take. Let me rewind that. If I were to do Youngstown State, and I haven't made my mind up yet, but if I did, I can't tell myself it makes sense to do negative 110 on the spread versus plus 114 on the money line. Because if they're going to win, they're going to win. If they win, I think they win by 5 or 6. If they win, I don't think they win by 1. Either they're going to do their thing and dominate or they're not. This is not a nail biter. They are outperforming Northern Kentucky in so many categories that it's not a nail biter. I'll show you a nail biter when I see one, but this is not it. Furman and Warford start where we always start. How did they win? At home, on the road, 64% of the games on the road, Furman wins. They're up against Warford that only wins 50% of their games at home. I don't like it. I don't like it, Warford. Furman has won all of their last 3 games. They on a tear. Warford has won 63%, 67%, which means 2 out of 3. But Warford, you don't dominate the categories. Best you can do is rebounds and crashing the boards, but that's about it. Everything else, you lose to Foreman in that capacity. There's no injuries to be accounted for, and there's no game time decisions. So Mr. Smith and Mr. Tripp are going to be the 2 contributors to the production, and I think that's all we're going to see. I mean, I think it's going to be a back and forth game, competitive. Um, I think Furman comes out on top. I even think Furman comes out on top to the point that not only do they cover the spread of 3.5, but I think they could even cover 4.5, and that's jumping off the porch. But based off of the math, I think that could happen. You win at home. I mean, you win on the road very well against a team that doesn't. If they were equal, I'd change my tune. But they win much better on the road than their opponent does at home. They both got the same amount of seniors and juniors, and and Furman had just won more games than last 3. They're on a trend. It's hard to not look at that. I'm going with Furman. I'm going with Furman in this game. It might crucify me later, but that's what I like. Northern Colorado and Northern Arizona. Oh, it's a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag, which is why you gotta dig even deeper. And as we dig even deeper, when we look at Northern Colorado, um, Northern Colorado, conference-wise, is a better team than North Arizona, but they have some flaws. One of those flaws being their defense. Northern Arizona significantly trumps Northern Colorado's defense. Um, both teams have a good record on the road and at home. Both teams do a really great job and won 2 out of the last 3. The upperclassmen piece of like 92% of the roster for Northern Arizona are seniors or juniors, and the other 80% for Northern Colorado are the same. I mean, that's the geopolitical part of it, but dealing with the betting and gambling and data analysis, data scientist part of it all, and observation, this is what you're looking at, okay? So, literally, um, I definitely like Northern Colorado. The science like Northern Colorado. They're kind of the same team as number 3, I guess number 4 team in the conference. Um, Northern Arizona checks off way too many boxes for me to turn against him. I'm going with Northern Arizona on this one. At least, if anything, I'm going with them for the spread for plus 3.5. I may not jump all the way off the porch and take the money line, but I think they put up a good fight, and even if they lose, they definitely don't lose by 20. If they lose by anything, it's going to be by 3 or 4 points, and that will be right up my alley. Last game on the docket, Gonzaga in San Francisco. Gonzaga holds a special place in my heart. I'd be lying if I didn't tell you that. And the main reason is because Gonzaga embarrassed me. And that was my fault because I didn't do the work. I didn't do enough research. And had I known what I know now, I would not have chosen Gonzaga like 3 games ago, 4 games ago. And they embarrassed me. They embarrassed me. But I won't fall for it again. Let's look at the data. How is Gonzaga doing at home or on the road? At home, I mean, on the road, they win 60% of their games versus San Francisco winning all of their games. Okay, that's cool. How does Gonzaga do in the last 3 games? They won 2 out of 3, and San Francisco won all of theirs. Interesting. How does Gonzaga do with the categories? Shooting, 3-point attempts, percentage, field goal percentage, rebounds, defensive points, offensive points. How do they do with that? Dominate. Oh, so dominate in all the categories, or at least outperform. You win at home pretty good, and you won pretty good out of the last 3. Not only are you on a tear, but it's almost like business as usual if you're Gonzaga, right? Like it's almost like, yo, this is what we do. But where it gets interesting is the scientific data. And I think the reason the data changes is because Gonzaga has injuries. Those injuries, I think, are going to be a challenge if at least half of them are game time injuries. Even though they're released, it doesn't mean that they're not playing hurt. There's a difference between hurt and injured. Remember, NCAA doesn't have deep benches. So when these teams have an injury, it's impactful. It could be the difference between winning a game and losing a game. One player getting hurt in NCAA. It's not pro. Pro has a deep bench. With that reality, San Francisco is not no bums, but at the same time, even though they're not bums, there's an opportunity to go with San Fran for plus 320. I'm not trying to like make a profound statement. I'm just telling you what the crystal ball looks like. And I think San Francisco may in fact be able to pull out a W. Even though Gonzaga's a better team, even though Gonzaga made me pay for going against them, Lindy's has them at like number 5 overall at the onset of the season. I get all of that. But I think Gonzaga's injuries are going to be what dictates this game. And I think San Francisco wins only because Gonzaga got too many people out. San Francisco plus 230, plus 320. And if you're really scared, just at least take the plus 8.5. Even if a miracle happens and Gonzaga wins with all these injuries, they don't dominate and they don't get the spread of negative 8.5. And I think San Francisco gets plus 8.5. That's what I think happens. Whew, the dogs, the dogs, the dogs. So this concludes this particular episode. It should be a really great day for NCAA. We got some highly competitive matches, some that I just wouldn't entertain. But, these are the 8 games that I think are going to have some value for entertainment, and as well as those that are looking for a play on the monetization part of it. But yeah, I like these 8 games. I think I have my finger on which way the wind is going to blow. I could be completely wrong, and I'm open to that. But feel free to get in the comment section. Tell me what you think. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me what I might be missing. What is around the corner. getting ready to punch me in my face like Mike Tyson. I don't know what those things are, but get in the comment section, please, 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 and tell me what you think. But as we close out this show, I want to definitely thank everybody that came to the show tonight, and I hope you found value. And if you did, please like, comment, share, or subscribe to my channel with Spreadsheet Sports. But I hope you enjoy the games. I hope I enjoy the games as well. And I will talk to you pretty soon. And also, don't forget, I'm going to do the conference breakdown. So definitely tune in for those. But enjoy the games. Enjoy the weekend.
Yeah, lights on, game time, let's break it all down. From the spreads to the lines, who's up, who's down.